Welcome to Gold Derby. I'm senior editor Denton Davidson here with the winner of Hell's Kitchen season 21 Battle of the Ages, Alex Belew, the Tennessee native who managed to outcook those other chefs and win the $250,000 prize and a head chef position at Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen, Caesars Atlantic City. Alex, so you reach the end and you have your hand on that door handle. What's going through your mind at that point? Are you like testing the pressure a little bit to see if it jiggles or what was that moment like for you?
I'll be completely honest. I think I've blacked out the majority of the last day. After dinner service, Gordon talked to Dafne and I, and he said, go back to the dorms. I've got a tough decision to make. So we went back to the dorms and we were sitting on the patio, and mid-conversation, we both passed out. We were just so spent emotionally, mentally, physically. It's such a draining 3 or 4 weeks that it's just overwhelming. And so we were just woke up like 45 minutes later, had drool on my face. She's conked out over there next to the hot tub. It was crazy. So when we finally went up there and that door handle was in my hands, it was, I didn't know which way it was going to go. Honestly, I thought, she's young. Gordon typically picks the younger people to win. I'm by far the oldest to ever win Hell's Kitchen, I think by 4 or 5 years. And so I didn't think my door handle was going to open, honestly. Daphne's creative. She kind of had this arc in the end where she was winning the Trejo's Taco thing. She won the Entertainment Weekly thing. And it was like she was kind of on that upward spiral. So I didn't know. In my mind, I had just been functioning day in, day out, trying to do the best I could. Watching the show, in some ways, it made me feel like I'm watching it. I'm like, who is that guy? It doesn't even seem like it was me. So I don't know. The whole thing was just surreal is the best way I can describe it. It just did not seem like it was within my grasp.
So when that door opens, the confetti's pouring down, your wife's crying, your mom's there. What was that moment like for you?
It was a mixture of sheer joy, validation from really one of the ultimate culinary gods in the world right now. Someone that you look up to, someone who has become, in those time, in that time that we were with him, he really became a mentor to us, and to hear and to feel the validation from him was, you get Yelp reviews when you own a restaurant. This is the best Yelp review you could ever get. Yeah. And so to see my wife's reaction, she had this mixture of like joy and excitement. And she was doing like this shaking, convulsing, jumping, crying, laughing thing. I don't even know if she could recreate that, but seeing her just so elated, and my mom, and it was the coolest experience. I mean, I remember hitting my knees and I just couldn't believe it.
You sold your restaurant a couple of days before going into the competition, and you said to your wife you were miserable and there had to be more to life than what was going on. Okay. What was so miserable? What were you feeling unsatisfied with that you were hoping to achieve through this competition?
Yeah, so there's a lot of people that kind of think they know what happened with my restaurant, and there's a lot of hearsay, and a lot of people think they have an idea of what actually happened. But so I had a restaurant in Murfreesboro. It was fine dining. It was about 55 seats, and then when COVID came down, we started noticing about a week before the government shutdown that our reservations were tanking, and so we shut down the Tuesday before that Friday where it was mandatory. COVID lasted much longer than we expected. And so by about June, we never got to reopen. When they let us reopen with limited capacity, for us, that was only 12 guests, which doesn't make sense to open as a restaurant. Mm-hmm. So we pivoted to a meal prep company. And so creatively, I was incredibly bored. We were just making packaged meals every day, selling them. They were great. Business was great. People loved it. But I was just in this place where I was not fulfilled. I was sitting in this restaurant that had these 2.5 years of memories of a full staff and a full dining room and making these creative dishes and going to the farmer's market and sourcing from these vendors. And I had all these nights working with this team, and that had been removed from me just altogether without notice. It's not like we didn't even know we were going to close. Like, it was just gone. And so doing meal prep for 1.5 years, I'd be there on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, just making chicken and rice, salmon and sweet potatoes, turkey taco bowls. And I was doing the same thing day in, day out with really no people. And I'm not the kind of person that needs to be alone. That's a dangerous place for me to be. And so I was just sad and depressed, and I needed something to shake my life up. And we were considering moving to Montana at this point. Like, she works from home because, COVID sent her entire office home. And I was like, man, let's just get out of here. Like, I need something to shake my life up drastically. And right like that week, I saw the application on Facebook for Hell's Kitchen. And I was like, what the hell? I'll apply. I've got nothing else going on. And then here we are.
What is that application process like? I mean, how do they vet you and know that you can actually cook? Like, do you have to demonstrate that you can cook something, or do they sort of look through your resume, or what's it like?
Yeah. So it's a very long process. I mean, it was 6 months long. And so there will be periods of radio silence, and then you'll wake up on a Monday and there'll be 3 emails telling you that you have 2 doctor's appointments and they need all of these files emailed to them. It can be a lot. There's a lot of times where you're just questioning, like, am I still on the show? Is it happening? I guess they maybe moved on. You fill out the application. It's just kind of a standard basic. Who are you? Why do you want to be on Hell's Kitchen? Show us 3 of the best dishes that you've cooked. And then a producer called. And after that, it was just, maybe 6 to 7 hours of Zoom calls with different tiered producers of the show. You go from, a basic person that just kind of does the initial meetings and greetings of, just, hey, who are you? Let me see your personality, to like the upper echelon producers of Fox. And then there's a psychiatric evaluation that's online. You take a psychiatric test online with the psychologist that watches you take the test. There's a very in-depth background check. It goes all the way back to ask you, who was your best friend in 5th grade? What girls did you date in high school? They want to know all your social links. They do a deep dive into your socials. They ask you if you've ever posted anything that could be deemed like slightly controversial. And in this day and age, everything is slightly controversial. So
right.
Then you go get a full physical, you do a lab panel, an EKG. I mean, they run the full gamut on you. They want to make sure that you're not going to murder someone on the show, and there's a small likelihood that you won't die as well. So it's pretty intense. They really cover their bases to make sure that you're really good to go.
Well, and it's good they do that, because things get a little heated. Some of those exchanges that you were having with AB, you made Tara cry. I mean, what was the most tense moment for you up in those dorms, like in terms of arguing and having those meetings where you have to decide who's going to go up for nomination? What was the worst part of that?
AB and I had a little disagreement in the beginning. I wish they had shown the hard conversation that we had probably on night 7 or 8, because I'm not one to just carry around a lot of beef. Like, I wanted to squash it. And I was like, listen, man, if we can just if you need to figure out how to talk to people, because AB is a very, very in your face type A, bold personality. So he's animated. He's just always on level 1000. And I was like, listen, man, when you're talking to us, just kind of try to chill out a little bit, sit down, talk to us at our level. And like the next day, he tried to stand up. He's like, listen to y'all, listen. Hang on, let me sit down. And he sat down and started talking to us. And I was like, okay, yeah. I would say that, Billy and I probably had the biggest, that was tough for me. I mean, it's just, Billy was really over the top and a huge personality, and just talked a lot of game and couldn't really back it up a lot of the times, and the whole CPAP machine thing. And, you're already going with no sleep and no family, and it's a new environment, new people, and just, all of your emotions are just running as hard as they can.
And this season was interesting because it was battle of the ages. So it's 20 somethings versus 40 somethings. And these 20 somethings were kind of smoking you guys for a little bit. So then they made it men versus women. And then the women were kind of smoking you for a little bit. You were on the losing end of a lot of challenges, and you spent a lot of time in punishments. How bad were those punishments actually? And which one was the worst for you?
They were bad. I mean, on the show, you see 60 to 90 seconds of something that took between 5 and 14 hours. Wow. I mean, they were brutal. Like, I remember specifically one of the punishments that we had. It was the one where Sakari was peeling carrots and we were shaving garlic. We had to shave 15 pounds of garlic cloves on a razor blade. And they just threw them all away, like right in front of you. You're like, you done? Trash can. You're like, oh. It's wild. The dumpster diving was intense. I built the compost box that probably took 2 hours because I'm just too stupid to build things. And then after that, there were just trash cans upon trash cans. They just kept coming from it's like they went to the next door gym and they were like, y'all got any trash cans you need us to sort? And we were just going through piles of trash, and it was food that had been sitting in there for a week in the sun, just baking. It was brutal. And what they also didn't show on dumpster day was Chef Jason made us all lunch, and the sandwich that he made us was white bread, mayonnaise, overcooked halibut, lentils, white onions, and mushy banana. And he just smashed it all together. And he was like, here's your lunch, guys. And it was like, thanks. Did
Tara ever forgive you?
Yeah, we're good now. And I honestly picked her because I didn't want to have a Summer reaction. Summer got really upset, and that made punishment tough. And so I picked Tara because honestly, she had been out the day before on a reward. And I thought she would blend the best with the team and be the most mature in handling it. I mean, I was wrong. So,
right. So in the end, it was you and 4 other 20 somethings in the final 5. Yep. And at that point, what were you thinking? Were you thinking, okay, I can hold this down and take this for the 40 plus crowd? Or were you nervous about that? And you seem to really bond, especially with Alejandro and Dafne.
Yeah.
Do you feel inspired by these younger chefs in any way, or see sort of yourself at that age reflecting back why you had a passion for this in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, both Alejandro and Dafne are incredibly talented, creative people. So, I mean, I would say they're probably more creative than I am. I mean, that's just the way it is. I have no problems saying that. They're both incredibly talented. I mean, I think I have more maturity, obviously, because I'm just 12, 13 years older than them. I've owned a restaurant, I've run a restaurant, but they can both cook their asses off. There's no doubt about that. I was worried about both of them the whole time. And I mean, Summer, she had one of the most amazing arcs in Hell's Kitchen history, from starting off her signature dish with like this is disgusting, this is not VIP at all, to blowing Gordon away and getting the first black jacket. I mean, she did amazing. She was great. And Cheyenne, man, she hardly had any mistakes the entire season. So it was, I'm standing there being the old guy that needs ibuprofen and Geritol drips. And I'm just thinking, like, I'm going to need a nap before these kids even wake up. So yeah, it was a little bit nerve wracking for sure, but I just tried to stay out of my head and hold my ground. And, I think at the end of the day, the amazing thing is that we are such good friends, and that, I mean, I've spent so much time with them since the show's been over, doing pop-ups and working together. And I've gone to Ohio, we've gone to LA, and, I was in LA for the finale. It's just a really cool time.
What challenge or episode scared you the most and made you think this could send me home?
That crab challenge scared the shit out of me. I live in a landlocked state where I wouldn't even eat fish that comes out of our local lake. So and I don't know anything about, the location of my challenge said San Diego and Oakland. And I'm like, what cuisine does Oakland, California have? They're not known for a cuisine. And I kind of looked at Dafne and I was like, hey, what am I looking at there? And she was like, oh, it's like a lot of Asian stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm good with Asian. And then I opened my suitcase and it's this gigantic live crab, 2 bottles of white wine, grapes, a tomato, an avocado, and almonds. And I'm like, that's the least Asian thing I've ever seen in my life. And there was no pantry for us to use. So I couldn't go use rice. I couldn't use anything else. There was like a sheet tray of some vegetables, which is how I got the bok choy. But other than that, I stared at those ingredients for probably 6 minutes, just going, I don't know what to do. I mean, I threw the crab in the water and then I pulled it out and I looked at Alejandro and I said, okay, how do I get the meat out of this thing? I didn't even know how to open it. I mean, I felt like an idiot. And then this one lady posted on my Instagram page. She's like, you shouldn't win. You don't even know how to open a crab. I'm like, that's like expecting a cardiovascular surgeon to know how to do a knee replacement. Just because I'm a chef doesn't mean I know how to do every single thing in the world of food. It's, you only know what you've been exposed to. So that crab challenge, it scared me to death.
And what about Gordon? I mean, we saw him give you great compliments, but he can also be super intense. Do you remember the worst thing he said to you, or what was it like, just sort of getting to know his personality a little bit better?
I've never met anyone whose brain works faster than Gordon's. He teaches you so much while you're there that he forgets what he teaches you in about 5 minutes and comes back and teaches you something different. So like at one point I was cooking a piece of halibut, and he's managing 2 kitchens at the same time. So he'll be on blue team, then he'll go to red team, then he'll come back. And so I was cooking this piece of halibut and he's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm just cooking this piece of fish. He's like, no, don't do it like that. Do it like this. And he shows me this new way of doing it. And I was like, okay, cool. Thanks, chef. And he goes back to the red kitchen. He's over there for 3 or 4 minutes. He comes back over. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm cooking this halibut. He goes, don't do it like this. Do it like this. And I was like, cool. You have a preference on which way I do? Never mind. So he knows so much and he talks so fast. Like when he calls those checks the first 2 or 3 nights of service, you're all just standing there dumb, just what? And then whoever's working garnish has to go run up to the pass, read the check, and then recall the ticket because we have no idea what he has said. He's intense. I mean, he walked up to Alejandro one time right before dinner service, and Alejandro's name is actually Alex, but they made him change his name because I was already Alex on the show. So Gordon walks up right before service one day and he gets right behind him and he goes, they call you Alex at home, right? And he goes, yes, chef. He goes, well, then get your fucking ears open. And he just walks. And everybody's like, what just happened? And Alejandro's like, okay. He's always on. And one of the coolest things about Gordon is no matter what happens at night, the next morning, he's fresh. He's brand new. It's like nothing ever happened. You could have run over his cat with a tractor. And the next day he's like, good morning. How'd you sleep? Everything good? He's great, man. I couldn't think of a negative thing to say about him. The things that you don't see are all the moments of teaching and humility. We had one-on-ones in his office, which they never aired. And you got these moments to really sit there and talk to him for 4 or 5 minutes and ask him any question that you wanted. And his story is very, very interesting and very humbling. And if you don't know his story, I think everybody should learn about it and read about it. And he genuinely does what he does because he wants people to be the best version of themselves as humanly possible. and he wants to try to pull that out of people. He's a great man.
Well, Alex, congratulations on being the winner of Hell's Kitchen 21. It's an exciting time for you. We wish you all the best with your plans moving forward. And thanks for having a chat with Gold Derby today about your experience.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.